Hey, what's going on? I'm Doug Cunnington, and this is The Doug Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk about tasks that you can give a virtual assistant or VA, and I'm going to talk about a few things that I've personally delegated to a VA service that I use called OK Relax. I'm an affiliate for OK Relax, so if you happen to use OK Relax and I use my affiliate link, then I get a commission. So I got to disclose that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get to that portion, exactly what I do outsource to OK Relax, I was recently flying and, I actually don't travel too much on a plane these days. Although in my old job doing like management consulting, I traveled quite a bit for about 2 years or so. And it was like that weekly schedule. I know a lot of you guys and gals out there kind of do the same thing where, you fly out on Monday morning, early on Monday morning, you get to some client site, usually mid-morning, and then you work all week. You're living in a hotel out of a suitcase, and then you fly out on Thursday afternoon. If you're lucky, you fly out on Thursday afternoon, so you get to like work from home on Friday, or maybe go to your home office and see some of the people that you work with locally, and but usually you work from home, and then you get a whole day on Friday, or you get 2.5, 3 days in. I guess 3 days if you're coming home on Thursday night, and then you do it all again the next week. So you're flying twice a week. And man, it really wears you down. So I can't believe I used to do that schedule, but when you're right out of college, it feels kind of cool, to be honest with you. You feel like, oh, I'm so important, they have to fly me somewhere, but it turns out like they're not paying you nearly as much as other people, and you're dumb enough to go travel, So it turns out it's a pretty rough lifestyle. You earn a bunch of, hotel points. You probably get a per diem. You're earning airline points. So like if you bank that stuff up, which, some people treat it like a sport, but I was not super interested. I would, stay at the hotels where I could get double points or triple points. And of course the hotel or the credit card points are nice as well. But yeah. It's a rough lifestyle, and it would wear me down. I could do about 6 months before I started like really complaining and wanting to get on a local project. And I think maybe I would do a little bit better at it now. A lot of it depends on who you're working with and like how stressful the client project is and all that stuff. But anyway, I was flying recently, and just like walking through the Denver airport, I was like, man, it is endlessly uncomfortable for me. You go through like areas where it's really hot, the heat is blowing in, and then you hit this other area where it's freezing, or maybe it's the middle of the summer and you hop on the train and it's, 15 degrees colder than, the concourse. And I'm usually hot. So I would prefer it to be cold, but the temperature extremes in the airport are just bananas. But the crazy thing, like I was flying out, had to make a connection, and that worked out generally okay, even though our plane landed, and I'm like, all right, I got 45 minutes. It looks like the gates are right next to each other, which never happens. How convenient to have the plane right next door. And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to have a minute. Maybe I'll grab a bite to eat, amazing. But we pull up to the gate, and the pilot comes on and says, oh, we're having trouble with the jetway. We can't get it open, or we can't connect it, or whatever. They had to call like mechanics out to help out. And we just sat there for, 15 minutes, which I know people have been through much worse than that. But I was like, I thought I was going to have plenty of time. I'm not going to have to like run across the airport to like make the flight. But yeah, something always comes up. Those connecting flights, something always can happen. So anyway, I made it over, but I got on the next plane, and the guy sitting next to me seemed nice enough. I'm not a chatter, I don't really care. After making so many flights, I want to sit down, go to sleep, maybe read a book, something like that. So the dude sat next to me. He's a younger guy, probably in his 20s or something like that, flying out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And, we're sitting there, we're about to take off. And he puts in like chewing tobacco and starts spitting into a fucking bottle. I'm like, that is so disgusting, man. And I'm pretty sure, I know you can't smoke, but I'm pretty sure you can't like have smokeless tobacco either. But I was like, am I going to like make a big deal out of this, or what am I going to do? So mentally, I was like, if it smells, like if I smell the nastiness of like chewing tobacco, I'll say something. And, I'm not above tattletaling, right? I'm 40. I'm like, if this motherfucker is chewing tobacco and it's like making me nauseous and he's spitting into a bottle like a true redneck from North Carolina or the South. I mean, I'm from Georgia, so I feel like I could say that. So I was like, if it starts making me sick, I will like ask him to stop. And if he does, then I'll hit the bell and like get him kicked off the plane or whatever. But anyway, it didn't bother me. So I'm not a confrontational kind of person. I think a lot of people would prefer to avoid a confrontation, but I'm like, dude, you're breaking the, sky law. You can't chew tobacco in here, you crazy asshole. And that is just disgusting. He's sitting in the middle seat, spitting into a bottle like a maniac. So anyway, what is this episode about again? What are we doing here? Outsourcing. All right, let's get on track here. This is going to be a fairly crisp, concise episode, which could be hard to believe after that little rant. I'm about to fly later on this afternoon too. So, okay. OK Relax is a service that I've been using after I heard about it from my friend Nick Loper from Side Hustle Nation. He was on this podcast back in episode, like in the first 5 episodes, I think. So you can go back there and check it out. But, and Nick has a great podcast out there, huge podcaster. So Nick said, hey, yeah, I use OK Relax every now and then. And basically, they have a few packages that you could sign up for and, pick whichever one, fits your budget and what you need. But I was like, hey, this company seems like it would be great to do blog commenting. And I think I'm going to test it out. So I tested it out a little bit, and then I decided to use OK Relax on an ongoing basis, especially for the aged site case study. If you're unfamiliar with that case study, there's a bunch of episodes about it. You can go to nichesiteproject.com/ASCS to check out the details. But generally, like the idea is I bought a website that was already made. It was aged out of the Google sandbox, and I'm doing a bunch of work to it to, get it earning money. So the blog commenting would be perfect because it's like a ongoing, like sort of repeated task where someone has to make a couple little decisions, but nothing too important. And, from what I could tell, OK Relax has, I think they are, non-native English speakers. I don't know that 100%, but they seem, based on some of the interactions that I've had, they could do okay, communicating in English, but there are a couple quirks in the, style and the sort of like cadence and stuff like that makes me think, hey, they're not native English speakers. So that said, I was like, hey, they'll be perfect for blog commenting. And by the way, if you sign up with OK Relax, I will send you my own job aid that I provided to my VA at OK Relax to do blog commenting. So it's a 1-pager. It's straightforward. I've used it, and I've a lot of people have signed up for OK Relax since I started talking about it, and they are also having success with using the job aid as well. So it's pretty tight. I went through a couple iterations, and I believe it's very good and it's very usable. So anyway, if you sign up through my affiliate link, all you have to do is send me the confirmation that you've ordered, and I'll send you the blog commenting job aid that you can give to your VA. Okay. So I was like, hey, they're going to do a great job with that. And one of the big questions you may be thinking, hey, what is a task, right? So the packages are set up like, I think it's 5 tasks and then per month, and then 25 tasks per month, and then 100 tasks per month. And people are like, does each comment count as a task? Like, how do you assign that, Doug? So through some research and interacting with the company, basically a task is something that takes about 30 minutes. So the way I have it set up, and this is outlined in the job aid, pretty sure, basically my VA can do somewhere between 4 and 8 comments per task. So, for example, if you want them to do one task per day during the work week, Monday through Friday, for example, each one of those tasks would be a 30-minute block of work. So that means you can get roughly 5 comments per task. Now, your mileage may vary. You'll notice I give a range there, so 4 to 8, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's a 30-minute block of work. So keep that in mind, and you can assign more than that, right? You could say, hey, spend 2 tasks on this assignment per day, and then they would do an hour's worth of work. So people get a little concerned, like, hey, if I get someone to do something and it only takes them 2 minutes, do I get do I get credited, or I guess does it cost me 1 task? Potentially, but if you set it up properly, then you can get them to do 30 minutes of work. So that's what I do. I'm like, hey, do 30 minutes of this blog commenting so they could do the same thing 5 times over again or whatever. So that is sort of like one of the primary things that my VA does. And I think if you sign up for one of the higher end packages, you get a VA assigned to you. Now they're doing other work as well, and there's a pool of VAs also. But if you sign up for one of the higher packages, you will get someone working with you on an ongoing basis. So you train them once, and then you don't have to train them again. And usually they get a little bit more efficient. They get a little bit faster after they've worked through the first, couple tasks. Some of the longtime listeners may know that I moved recently. My wife and I moved from Montana down to Colorado, and moving, you got to get a new license, and there's some other like car registration and some other, kind of bullshit like that you have to deal with. So I was like, I'm going to see what OK Relax can do. By the way, on OK Relax, they have like a bunch of different, examples of things that you can ask your VA to do. So I was like, hey, we'll just test this out. I said, hey, I'm moving from, here to there. Can you tell me where the closest locations are to get my license set up? Let me know if I can make an appointment, what the hours are. Here's where we're going to move. So I want it to be close to this location. Also, let me know about car registration and the process that I have to do there. Let me know the office. Can I make an appointment? All those details, right? So I just asked basically that, put it in, in writing, submitted it. And I got back, a 1-pager with details on each of those things. I think that was just, I think I made it 1 task to get both of those like pieces of information. And so I realized that they can do just web research, right? So, if you go look at the list of things you could do, a lot of it is sort of web research and then maybe making an appointment for you if needed. Now, I didn't do this, but you can have the VA make purchases on your behalf. So you would, give them credit card information or whatever. So I don't personally feel like I would be, vulnerable or anything like that for them to make like weird purchases or anything, or anything like that. But I guess Some people may be nervous about that sort of thing. So, you wouldn't have to give that information if you don't want them to like make those transactions. Typically, I suspect that like credit card, we have such good protection with credit card companies and stuff. Like if there was some unauthorized purchase, like you would be able to like refute it, give the information that you need, and then probably be, not responsible for that money. I don't think that's an issue though. I just haven't had anything where I've like felt the need to have a VA buy stuff for me, but it could come into play if you're like, hey, I want you to like rent and reserve a car for this upcoming trip. I need it from, this time period to that time period, and you could use this credit card, right? So that would be one mechanism where, it would be very useful. Now you may be able to use some other like payment systems that make you feel more secure. But since I don't do it, I'll stop that line of information there and tasks. So the other thing that I have used pretty extensively at this point is for that general web research. And here's how it can be really useful for like content-based websites, whether you have affiliate sites, whether you have like display ad sites or anything like that. But I like to do FAQs for content to spruce them up and to just like figure out what to put on existing content that I want to like rank better, pull in more long tails, and just be more useful. So fairly straightforward to like look up FAQs, and you could basically like give the VA some general instructions on like, hey, here's like the 5 or 6 keywords that I want you to check out. That's what I'm targeting. And you can tell them to Google it. You can have them log the FAQs that they see on the search engine result page or SERP. You can have them just log the ones that are on there that Google tells you. There's a couple niches that I've done research on where there's very active forums out there. So you can direct the VA to, hey, go check out some of these forums. Look for frequently asked questions around this topic, and then put them in a list. So very effective. You could have them go to Quora to look up questions as well. Now, because they are not experts in that area, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to know the answers or what's relevant. But the fact is, if you could tell someone, hey, do 2 tasks worth of research here, I want to get 30 questions or so around this topic. You may have some that aren't that great. You may have a few that are redundant, but the fact that it takes just a couple minutes to assign it, and then you get an hour's worth of work done, that's pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned. And what I've done is I've taken that list of questions that the VA researched for me. I also, by the way, have them put the link in so that whoever is writing it can have the reference right there in front of them. So question and then a reference so they can go look up the answer. So you could just assign it to a writer. Maybe it's a writer that you've been working with on Upwork, and you're like, hey, write this stuff out. Or you could have, one of the other services. I actually tested Text Broker, which I used to use extensively back in the day, but found that I'd rather hire people directly. But I was just like, hey, let's see what happens if I assign FAQ research to OK Relax. I get a 1-pager full of questions, and then I assign it right away over to Text Broker and see if they can, write something quickly in 1 day or so, which they did. And it worked out pretty good. Now, the cool thing about hiring a writer from a place like Text Broker is number one, you can get it super fast because it goes to a pool of writers that can, work on your job. But the super cool thing is because it's just a set of FAQs that you're going to insert into existing content, it doesn't have to flow, right? It doesn't really matter the style of how they're writing. It doesn't have to be like a narrative. and it could just answer the questions. So in my case, I told the writer to just write 50 to 150 words for the answer for each one of the questions. So if you do the math really quick, I ended up with, roughly 3,000 new words of content from, roughly 15 minutes of me making assignments and then, reviewing the submitted work. So you can have the VA do FAQ research. You can have them do general web research as well, but I find the FAQ is a nice way to get them started doing research. And then I would recommend, I haven't done this specifically, but I would recommend having the tasks layered on. So maybe the first research assignment, especially if you have a VA assigned to you that you're working with on an ongoing basis and you want to get them doing more thorough research and understand the style that you like to work in. So FAQ research the first time, maybe you can do FAQ research and then a little bit deeper research into buying guide topics. But what I'm getting at here is you can give the VA research assignments to put together an outline for your writer. And at that point, your writer doesn't have to do as much research. They don't have to think. They can focus on writing, which is what you want them to do. You don't necessarily want your writer to, be very concerned with finding references and figuring out what to put in the actual content. So that's basically the things that I've personally used OK Relax for. But like I said on the website, they have different categories of task examples that their VAs can handle. So a personal task, family task, travel task, and business task. So a couple of the examples on the business tasks are kind of like the research topics that I mentioned. Hey, our office is moving. We want to find Office Depot and Best Buy locations close by. We just want to have some information researched out there. As far as managing an inbox, you can also give them specific instructions hey, go to my inbox. I've gotten behind. And, for anyone asking about, being a podcast guest, let them know here's where you sign up, something like that. So the big thing, the huge tip, whether you're using OK Relax or just a regular general VA that you're hiring for a one-off task or ongoing, is the more information that you can give them about what you need them to do, the better. So if you give them sort of vague instructions where they are making decisions where they don't know exactly what you want them to do, they're probably going to try their best. They may opt for the easiest decision for them, right? When you understand the incentives, they're probably going to try and do the quickest thing most of the time. So if you give them very specific instructions, then you're going to end up with a better end product. So I highly, highly recommend being as specific as you can and ask for feedback. So even when I worked with the OK Relax VAs, I've given them instructions and I let them know, hey, if anything is unclear here, if you don't know what to do in any step, please let me know. Ask questions. I'm here to answer questions to make it more clear. And most of the time I set up job aids in Google Docs and I let the person leave comments and I encourage them, hey, leave a comment if there's any specific thing that is unclear. Do you need more information? And so on. And then if they ask a question, I make that section more clear. What happens over time, perhaps you work with multiple VAs or you have multiple iterations of the person working through the tasks, you end up with a much better piece of job aid. It's very clear because you're adding to it based on questions from real people trying to understand what you want them to do. And that is what I did with the job aid for blog commenting, right? So I did it many, many times myself. I had other people do it many times. I worked with VAs who didn't know what I was talking about or what I was trying to do. So the instructions are very verbose. They're very foolproof, and it's all based on feedback from people trying to use it. So highly, highly recommend that. And, the blog commenting is fairly straightforward, which is good. But there are some other things that are maybe more complex. For example, this is going a little bit beyond what I've used OK Relax for, but I think they'd be able to handle it with a little training, is on-site SEO and like a checklist to go through. So I told this story the other day with Chris, one of my coaching students, and he was just asking about how I assign stuff to VAs and all that. And I mentioned I had a friend in the past who gave his VA, like a new VA, a checklist. And he said they did a terrible job and he's going to have to find a new VA. And I was like, well, how many things are on the checklist? Those are supposed to be pretty easy and straightforward. Like how'd they mess up the checklist for you? He said, there's 65 things on there. It's several pages long and it's like technical on-page SEO. And I was like, that's too many things, man. Like it should just be a handful of things, 10 or so. It should be on one page, but you should make it like pretty straightforward. And I know you want to check the other 55 items, but you got to layer on the tasks because they have no idea any of this technical SEO stuff. So make it easy. A checklist is supposed to be like easy and straightforward. So, make it easier, get rid of a bunch of stuff, layer it on, right? So give them the first 10 things that are the most important to check on. Once they, run through that, you've given them feedback, they've asked you questions, they're doing it effectively. Then after that, you can layer on more complexity. So this seems to be an ongoing theme for like everything is keep it simple at the beginning, make it easy to be successful for, yourself, for your VA, whoever it is, and then you can layer on complexity later. So whenever I try to hire someone and train them, I try to make it fairly easy at first, and then the person will get bored with it, right? After they've sort of mastered or they're proficient in a certain set of activities, they're going to get a little bit bored. They actually like to get more complexity because they're constantly learning. They're layering on more tasks and they're learning more, right? So at the end of the day, it makes them a little bit more marketable, in my opinion, depending on the task that you're layering on. But keep it simple at first. You can make it complicated later. So like I mentioned before, maybe you get the VA to research FAQs at first, and then later on you can get them to do research for like a buying guide for a specific product. Maybe they don't know anything about the product, but maybe you can, continue to get them to do a little bit more research on different areas of the product. My analogy is a little bit, it's kind of falling apart as I'm going deeper here. But the point is you could layer things on and make it more complex later. So anyway, I'll do one more pitch here for OK Relax. Again, I'm an affiliate, so I do get a commission if you sign up. But if you sign up, all you need to do is send me your your email confirmation to Doug@nichesiteproject.com, and then I'll send you the blog commenting job aid. So I wasn't sure if many people were going to take advantage of this, but over the past couple months, a lot of people have signed up, which is awesome. And I think, it's really saving a lot of time for individuals out there. For me personally, it's pretty boring to do blog commenting. I used to do them all myself. My wife used to help me out as well, because you could kind of jump in, do some blog commenting while you're kind of brain dead. You don't have to pay too much attention, but it's a perfect thing to outsource when you want to claim back a little bit of your time, when you have a little bit more money than time, and you can pay someone, for a couple months to do blog comments and get those blog comments out there, to do like the early part of networking, to maybe get a guest post later in the future. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. Let me know if you're using OK Relax. Let me know what tasks you're outsourcing too. So you can ask questions, leave comments and all that stuff. feedback@doug.show. That's the email address. If you want to leave a voicemail, there's a phone number, a voicemail number in the show notes. And around 90 seconds is the sweet spot. So you can sort of practice, make sure you're not going to go too long on there. Everybody have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to The Doug Show. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I'm just sitting here at my computer recording stuff, and you're listening to it, and I think that's awesome. If you enjoy the show and you know someone who maybe would be interested in it, please let them know. I think it would be fantastic if you help spread the word. If you are not signed up for the Niche Site Project email list, well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff about affiliate marketing, productivity, including all my templates. If you happen to not be subscribed to this podcast, please do subscribe, and don't forget, I welcome your questions. So you could send your emails to feedback@doug.show. I got that really cool domain, doug.show, that's it. So feedback@doug.show, or I'm going to leave my voicemail number in the show notes. So all you have to do is give me a buzz, leave a voicemail, and then I'll potentially put you on the air. So looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next time.